Today I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max. This is going to be a charging port replacement. Apparently the story is the device went in some sand. I have no idea what happened after that. I thought I would just be digging some sand out, but as it turns out, the customer's device is missing a couple of pins. Essentially there's 8 pins in the lightning port, and the 3 on the left and 3 on the right are there, but the 2 in the middle are missing. So, well, got to replace the port. So that's what we're going to do today. Some of the tools that we're going to need for today's repair will be a pentalobe, a Phillips, a Y000. iFixit has a great tool set for all of this. You can get basically all of this in one place. A standoff bit for some of the screws holding down the charging port. You can use a flathead if you're on a budget or you can't afford or you can't get one at a time or whatever. An opening tool. The iSesamo has a great opening tool for removing the screen without breaking it. A set of tweezers, a nylon spudger, a magnetic mat to keep track of all your screws, a heat source for removing the screen without breaking it. And I don't have it here, but having an extra perimeter gasket is not a bad idea, especially if the majority... My general rule is no matter what, your phone won't be water resistant after this repair. It more than likely wasn't water resistant previous, but if you want to... If in the process of removing the screen, the majority of the gasket is degraded, you can install one, and they're great for keeping dust out, but just don't expect it to be water resistant. On the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max, we have a little, I guess the term would be daughter board, because the mother is inside, so this will be a daughter board. And I know there are aftermarket, I'll just say, I get mine from Mobile Centrics. I know they have 2 different kinds. Sort of... As a mobile business, one of my least favorite things is having to go back to someone's house to redo a repair, just because I tried, I don't know, saving like $10 or $15 on a part. So I tend to, as often as I can, if, you know, as long as it's economically feasible, which in my opinion this is, there's not a dramatic difference between this. Like, I think this charging port is about $50, which is kind of expensive. But in comparison to the other one, like I said, I try to avoid redoing things, and I'd rather just spend a few more dollars, know that the customer is taken care of, and I have, you know, I don't need to worry about an upset customer or potentially upset customer out there. So, yeah, Mobile Centrics. I'll leave a link down below, and I have repairs stacking up for today, so I'm going to try to knock out this repair as quickly as I can. So this is a perfectly good example of, we're probably going to end up replacing this screen protector, but this is a perfectly good example of needing to reuse a screen because the customer's screen is not damaged. So I'm going to show you how to remove the screen without breaking it. As you can see, part of that is heat. The next is using an iSesamo. And that's it. As you can see, we don't need to insert our opening tool very far. There are some suction cups that you can use. I think there's one called iSclack, and there's basically, it's almost like the reverse of scissors, where you put 2 suction cups on and then you pinch, and then it pulls, it basically lifts the screen up. But that is an extra tool, which in my opinion is, I used to use, but I don't need it anymore. So one of the methods that I like is to twist. And it has essentially the same effect of cutting without cutting. So once you get to maybe halfway up, you can gently lift. You don't want to open the screen more than about here, as you can accidentally damage or tear your flexes, which are about right here. Bear in mind, no matter what you do, your phone will never be water resistant again. You can reinstall a new gasket, and it might help a little bit, but it's, well, there's no other way of saying it. It's not going to be water resistant. Once we're here, we can remove our retaining plates. This one has some foam on it and may have a tendency to want to stick to the flexes. Just give it a gentle lift. You can even use the spudger. Always, 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 first thing that you want to disconnect is the battery. I see, in my opinion, too many videos where they forget to mention that. I'll mention that again before I reinstall. Now that we're here, one of the nice things that they did is, since the iPhone 7, basically every single model, you have to do a board out repair, and the nice thing about this is the flex runs on top of the battery, so you don't have to disassemble you don't have to gut the phone like you would on that model. It's just a matter of taking out whatever charging port components there are. So I'm going to speed through. There are a couple of standoff screws, but if you don't have a standoff screw, or a standoff driver, you just as easily can use a flathead. They're kind of a pain to get when you're during the reinstall process, but if you're on a budget and you don't want to buy a driver or a bit, flathead will work. So at this point, we've removed our screws. There are a couple of things we need to remove. Taptic engine, loudspeaker. There's this little bracket right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. In no particular order. There's a bit of foam, which I'll point out right here. Which has a tendency to, well, its job is to stick to the speaker, so you might have to to get the loudspeaker unstuck, just lift up at a 90-degree angle. It'll come right out. The Taptic engine isn't really stuck to anything. It'll just come right out. This bracket has a little, this little plate has a little bracket right here. I would just twist counterclockwise, and it's that little thing right there that we're getting past. And we have a couple more standoff screws. Let me get these out. We have a third one right here. And we have a couple more screws. We have 2 Phillips that are in the bottom, which are right here and here. And then we have 2 tri-wings. I almost forgot, but we have 1, 2, 3 more tri-wings and a little plate. There's no trick, just drops right out. Next, we can remove our charging port flex. There's this little offshoot right there. Honestly, I don't even know what this is, but I know this is a microphone. Comment down below if you know what it is. This bracket, just like the speaker, is held in with some adhesive. You can take that, set it aside. Coming in with our spudger. It's not in there very tight. You don't need to use that much force. So now that we have our new charging port assembly, there's basically almost every single, assuming you get these new from a reputable source, there's typically a little piece of, like a little sticker that covers the microphone so you don't get, I don't know, dust or debris in transit. And just make sure there's no sort of, I don't know, I guess there's no tape on the original one. There shouldn't be any tape. But sometimes on other models, I'm sort of derailing here for a sec, but you need to, but we don't here, so forget that. Now it's just a matter of, what I like to do is to drop it in, and then I'll use my tweezers, and I'll grab the Phillips drop them both in. So before I go and tighten them all the way, I like to come in with my charging cord. Doesn't even need to be plugged in. You just want to make sure that it has free movement. It's not propped up at a weird angle. Sometimes I'll even leave it plugged in. Come back, tighten it all the way, test it again. You're always better off testing it, basically doing that now. Now there is a bit of folding we're going to have to do with some of this stuff. But I'll get to that in a sec.
Don't forget about our side screws.
Then we come back with our little plastic bracket right here. So I'll drop this in place. And before I fold my microphone on whatever that is, I'm going to tighten my 3 standoffs. Now that we're here, we need to, you can see right here, this piece over here, you need to fold at essentially just at a 90 degree, not 90, I'm sorry, 180 degrees. Okay, so once we're here, then I can do that. And I can come in with my Taptic engine right after I bend that little piece in place. Now I like to connect my Taptic engine first. Before I move on to my screws. But you do you. Next, now that that is done, reinstall my plate. 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tri-wing screws. So I like to connect my charging dock first before dropping that long skinny plate on over here. And the technique that I have, especially on wider flex cables, is don't just press in the dead center. Go from right to left or left to right, as it minimizes the chance of the flex bowing. We then come back with our tri-wings. Now at this point it's time to install the screen. I did mention I would say this before, so this is me mentioning it now. Make sure that if for whatever reason you connected your battery, make sure it is disconnected. It is far too easy to damage some part of your device, just because when your battery is connected to the board, there's electricity running through it, even if the device is turned off. So if you want to be as safe as possible, take the least risk, make sure your battery is disconnected whenever you are connecting or disconnecting anything. Now, for this one right here, same principle as my charging port. It is one of the wider flexes, so as such I like to press down on one side and then the other. Avoid pressing in the dead center. So as a general rule, I always like to test the functionality of my device and the components that I worked on or interacted with before seating the screen and the rest of my retaining plates. On the charging port, that is essentially the Taptic engine, the loudspeaker on this one because of the board, the mute switch, volume up, down, and wireless charging port all connect through this little daughter board. So you want to check that as well, your lower microphones, and then obviously your charging port.